I am here with MLW President Court Bauer. Court, you are an extremely busy man. I didn't even think I could get you this week, but here you are. How are you doing?
Hey, it is a busy week from Philadelphia to New York City and all the things we're doing with Vice. It's been nonstop. You probably can see the bags under my eyes because I've gotten like 4.5 hours of sleep over the last 7 to 10 days. That's the life of being a promoter. You're just always under the gun and you're going 24/7. And when people think Vince McMahon's the only one that doesn't get sleep, if you're a promoter and you're trying to do your job, you're probably not getting a lot of sleep.
Yeah. Well, it's been, there's a lot going on. 4 years ago, you guys kind of returned to TV, and here you are, fourth anniversary, your biggest special yet. You're going to have the most eyeballs yet. MLW Fightland on Vice TV Thursday night. First off, how did the talks with Vice start?
They started probably, I would say, maybe a year or two ago, and it was kind of quiet, and things were kind of moving at a slower pace. Sometimes that's just the way it goes, and you kind of start to learn about each other and what the goals are for a network or the league, and you start to kind of kick the tires on what is it going to cost, what is it going to look like, and then of course the pandemic hit, and everyone's budget, everyone our ability to see what's on the horizon when we're going to be able to do shows and things, we had no idea. So then everything kind of hits a speed bump, and then you kind of rebuild the momentum as people get more comfortable with what's on the horizon beyond the pandemic, or as the pandemic gets kind of as manageable as possible, as given the conditions we're under. So it's been a little bit of a journey, and to see Vice grow out its presence with Dark Side of the Ring and how big of a hit it's been, the logical next step is to create a block of programming and have an actual wrestling league featured. And we're very happy and honored to be on that main voyage with them.
So, what do you see going forward as far as a working relationship with Vice? Is there plans for more specials? Is it kind of a wait and see approach?
Yeah, everything's on the table. We are having conversations with Vice. We're talking with a bunch of people because, to me, the thing you want to do is you want to be a great partner to all your partners, but you also want to look at how you can cut the pie. And a sophisticated model for every league now, whether it's in wrestling or any other sport, is to try to have as many deals as possible, unless someone pays you the big dollars to say, hey, this is ours, this is exclusive. If you look at like ECW, they had one deal. When that deal collapsed, it was such a fast snowball down the hill that it became an avalanche for the league. For us, it's really important to look at the pie and say, okay, there's English rights in linear and in streaming. There's Spanish rights in English, or in linear and in streaming. So I want to be able to slice up that pie as much as I can to squeeze as much juice out of it and have as many discussions as I can have. There's discussions about reality programming. There's discussions about live specials. There's discussions about spin-off shows. There's the weekly shows. There's a lot of stuff in English and in Spanish. So I'm having all those conversations, and we're happy to see where we take this. We're excited to see where we take this with Vice as we explore every avenue we can. That's my responsibility in running this thing. I got to talk to everyone.
Yeah, and you've got a huge match coming up on Fightland. You've got Hammerstone, Alex Hammerstone, defending the national openweight title. I'm sorry. Hammerstone defending the national openweight title against Jacob Fatu, the MLW World Heavyweight Champion, title for title. What is that like to give something like that away on free TV as opposed to doing that on a pay-per-view?
Well, I've always believed, there's something Vince taught me. You always want to give your fans value. And so when I think about that, it's like I want to give the fans the most I can for the least amount. And that's how you build your audience. That's how they know that you're not trying to get every dime out of the fan and exploit them, especially in times like this. We're recovering from some pretty hard times. A lot of people lost their job. I want to give fans our biggest match in history and be able to give it to max amount and selfishly put it in front of the most amount of eyes as I can. Vice is that solution, and so it's a great scenario because we wanted to do something with big and noisy for Vice. And when we were talking about it, I'm looking at what my notes are, and it's just Fatu Hammerstone. That's it. And that's a match that I talked to both Fatu and Hammerstone about February of 2020. Just this is where I'm going, and it's going to be with Hammer winning the Battle Riot, which was slated for July 2020 in Philadelphia. I had no idea when the pandemic hit it would be that big of a delay. I thought, well, 12, 18 weeks maybe. And as time went on, we saw how the world, how everything went. And so a year later, we're still looking and tracking for that. And then we stuck with our plan. The way I design everything is when I have a plan, I stick with it unless we have to call an audible because of injury, the fans don't take to something. But otherwise, I really am very big on long-term booking. And that was a match they both knew. They knew the outcome. They knew everything almost 2 years ago now. So yeah, we stuck to our guns on that. We just had a vacillating schedule because of everything that happened in the world, and we had to tread water doing empty arena shows. But now that we're back, it's 200 miles per hour.
Yeah. It's and Vice TV, they've really become a player already in the pro wrestling space with the Dark Side of the Ring. Now you'll be on right after that. So not only do fans get the chance to watch Dark Side of the Ring, a new episode featuring Johnny Canine, but afterwards they get to see this huge world title match, title versus title. The winner, will they be defending the title simultaneously? Will the winner be defending each one separately? How is that going to work?
And what's the matchmaker Cesar Duran going to say about it? These are all good questions that when you tune into Fusion Alpha after Fightland in the weeks ahead, you'll get some clarity on, but they will be answered.
All right. You are
promoter answer.
You're also going to be debuting a very unique feature during Fightland, MLW Embedded, and I'm have the honor to be a part of that. I have not seen anything like this before on a pro wrestling show, where it kind of opens everything up. Please explain to our listeners what exactly this is.
So yeah, great question. We're gonna, for 25 years or so now, you've had the same format in wrestling. Same format. It's 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour version of it, but essentially all my competitors, including myself, have used the same format. And it's like you think about the 70s and how the evolution of wrestling changed from watching it in that era, and you go back and watch it on WWE Network or Peacock or wherever on YouTube, and then you look at how it evolved into the 80s and how the 80s model evolved into the 90s model and then Crash TV, and then it's just kind of just stopped evolving. And you look at wrestling, and fans love great wrestling matches. They love watching the angles. They love watching all that. But at the same time, they're always on their phone when they're watching it, and they're looking what the latest gossip, the latest news is. They want to know. It's the appetite when you do research and see what's trending, what's interesting. It's all rooted in kind of like accessing and having information and knowing what the latest news is, the latest gossip, everything. You want to get that instantaneously. And wrestling hasn't really gone there. And promoters, I think, are uncomfortable because you have to control that. You want to control. You got to control everything. When we were talking with Vice and kind of spitballing what we could do a little differently and how they lean into such a news narrative direction with their program, I said, well, I'm such a news junkie for wrestling and everything. I think we should go there and just give complete autonomy to the people doing that segment. Let them talk about what they want to talk about. What are the topics? What are the stories they can break? And if it's about another league, that's fine. I think it's interesting. And if more people are going to watch us because of that, I'm not afraid of that. If someone gets signed, we want to know about it. If some company's for sale, we should know about it. We want to hear the latest from you guys. So having the top journalists in the game talking about it, I think is interesting. I think fans want to see what that is. So kind of like during an NBA game, you go back to the studios in Atlanta on TNT and watch Shaq and Barkley talk about not just the game itself, but break down the latest stories and talk about it. That's what we're going to be doing here. It's kind of like our halftime show. And we'll be talking about the latest stories. Or I should say you will be. I have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I will be on a panel. I know, I don't not to give away too much, but one of the topics we're going to be broaching is the possibility of WWE being put on sale.
Yeah, it's a great topic.
And one that's really been coming up this year with all the free agents, with really how they've been cleaning up shop. One of the releases they had was really surprising to me. It was EJ Naduka. And he has everything, and he will be wrestling for MLW. How has it been like working with EJ?
Great. I worked with him on Saturday and Sunday. He's a can-do guy. Incredible in terms of his frame of mind and his mindset on everything. You couldn't ask for a more positive outlook. He's very accomplished. I mean, he was drafted in the NFL. He was an IBFF bodybuilder, and was really fast learner in WWE, according to friends over there. So how they would let what I would say a first round draft pick just walk out, or
Right.
elect to essentially waive him, is crazy to me. But yeah, at the same time, this is the company that took a few looks at Fatu, took a few looks at Hammerstone, just said, hey, we're not going to sign these guys. And ever since I signed them, it's funny how every promoter wants to sign these guys. We just have a
Yeah.
good portion of having these guys, and they love MLW. I mean, I think part of that's because this is the system where they've thrived, and there's a respect and a sense of comfort in that, okay, these guys got me, they gave me my shot, and I really was able to flourish here.
Yeah. You have so many free agents hitting the market, like right now, you have so many out there. What is that process like? I mean, you must be getting calls all the time. I mean, what are you looking for when you're bringing in talent to MLW?
Well, I always will have 5 to 10% of my roster that I will always carve out just for free agents. You try them, and you know that maybe there's not longevity there, either because of financial reasons, opportunities for them on the horizon, or creative reasons for me. I just like this thing has about 2 to 3 match kind of relationship, and how we build this. And sometimes you go back and you'll sign those guys, or it's just like you're kind of counting down for that third match to happen. Like, okay, thank God we're done with that. And it allows you to freshen up the card. You don't know. Sometimes guys you get are great. Sometimes guys come in, want to prove everyone that they're not an asshole, and they do a great job. And other times, like, wow, no, that guy's an asshole. So you just don't know what you're going to get until you get it. And so having that flexibility for us gives us new, fresh matchups. It allows us to shake up the card and bring in someone with usually they're coming off of a big TV time, so it allows us to have just something different, a different dynamic to the show. With that said, you look at the talent pool right now in the free agency market. It's there's a lot of guys out there, or guys that have signed elsewhere that aren't 100% exclusive. So you have these interesting things that you can look at and say, maybe we should try it out. And that's what we did this past weekend, even with guys like Bobby Fish. He's a free agent. We tried him out. We have a verbal commitment from him to do a few more shows. And if it works, hey, maybe we'll do more. If it doesn't, hey, we had a good run. We had an opportunity to have him in the Opera Cup. Cool. So you just always want that flexibility. You don't want to have such a rigid thing where your roster is locked. It's the same guys and the same matches, and they're just different angles to keep it going. WWE for 20 years has basically presented that. I think wrestling is exciting because MLW and other companies are giving you something different.
Right. You mentioned Bobby Fish, also Lee Moriarty, are guys that are wrestling for both MLW, and they're doing some AEW dates. When you have talent working for both promotions like that, is there any communication between you guys and AEW, or is that just kind of up to the talent?
No, definitely there's some communication, and I will say guys like Chris Daniels and Tony Khan have been very good, and it's been a very easy, effortless kind of rapport. So I mean that's always what you hope for. I'll say historically it's easier said than done with some companies, but so far there's nothing but positive when it comes to those relationships with AEW.
Yeah. And are there any talents out there that you can reveal to us that you would like to bring into MLW?
Well, let me look at my board behind me. No, it's so fluid. It's such, you look at guys, and just before we jumped on, I was having a call with some of the guys on our team, and we're just looking at that, and it's like you got to be careful too, where you don't flood your company with too many of these guys, and you have to have a real reason for bringing them in. It can't just be, hey, this will pop ticket sales or 1 week of eyes on your product. It kind of has to have that connectivity across the board. So yeah, there's guys that we're looking at. We're pretty much at this point. I mean, we only do 1 hour TV show a week, and these cool kind of specials. So it's like you have to be very careful because that's precious TV time, and you got guys under contract. So how much time do you have in a 60-minute show, which with commercials is really closer to 48, 49 minutes? And you can get 2 or 3 matches on that show. And so it's kind of like, you need kind of a Google algorithm from a matchmaking point of view to see, okay, how many of these guys can we bring in? How can we best use them? But there's some guys out there that are interesting to us. We hear rumors about different guys, and I'm looking forward to see what you guys talk about on the free agency topic. on embedded, because there's definitely guys out there, and you've heard a lot of things about where they're going, and then maybe that thing falls apart, and then you're like, well, where are they going next? So you guys are going to give us the scoop this Thursday on Vice.
Right. Yeah. On Vice, we'll be discussing that, and there's probably going to be some breaking news as well. So
No,
definitely
looking forward
looking
to it.
forward to that. Now, there's been so much going on with MLW. Yeah, I'm just gonna start hitting you with the questions.
Go for it.
Obviously, Fightland right now, the big news. But also, you recently announced Azteca Underground, and a lot of people are very curious about what it's going to look like, when it's going to premiere. What can you tell us about it?
Well, as you can tell, like I said earlier, we were very much into long-term planning, and just the reveal of Cesar Duran started it in January of
Mm-hmm.
2020 and didn't get revealed for almost half a year. And everyone, I think, was like, "Oh, they're not going to get the Luis Fernandez Gil." And no, it's like, no, we got him, and we take our time with the payoffs. We want it to be nuanced. We deliver on the payoffs. We were teasing that we were coming to Vice for like half a year, like, "Oh, court's full. He always is hyping stuff, doesn't deliver." Then we delivered. So it's like we just take our time with this, and for a lot of reasons, and we want it from a creative perspective to connect and click. But also, deals take time, and when you can formally announce things, take time. So sometimes I probably should be under a gag order before I tease or say too much, but I can say that yeah, we have a lot of plans. Some of them are ambitious. We're hoping to share more soon, and I think if you watch Cesar Duran and how his character evolves in the world of MLW, where we basically made a deal with the devil by bringing him in, and how does that play out? It's going to be a good payoff.
You think you'll start shooting it this year? Come on, Court, give me something.
you know, some of it really it's a logistical thing, because for me, I really want Azteca to be filmed in Mexico. There are some logistical hurdles to pull that off, from the
Right.
COVID end, and getting people to come back and forth, because I can't have it be 100% staffed and done in Mexico. So there are some complications that come up with that kind of thing. But in my eyes, when I see Azteca, it is as authentic as it can get when it comes to lucha. I think you could do it up in the States to some extent, but I really want the feel of that. I mean, Chicago, we've had a little bit of that feel when we bring our show over to the Cicero Stadium, in that you'll have the fans with the bullhorns and noisemakers, and it definitely feels like you're in Mexico a little bit. But that experience is so special, so distinctly something of Mexico, that I really don't want to just, okay, let's just do it here because it's a little more complicated because of COVID compliancy things we have to do and be responsible about. Importing shows is a little harder than it was 2 years ago. Our last show before we shut down was in Tijuana, and the world changed very quickly, and how one country addresses the pandemic versus another so different. Testing and be able to test in certain places is easier than it is in a foreign country. So we have a lot of things we have to kind of navigate to make sure we're comfortable for the talent, we're comfortable for the crew, their family, everyone in doing this.
And the last question about Azteca Underground: do you see it having a separate roster from MLW? What we're seeing, or do you see it being a crossover, or like both shows complement each other?
No, I think that there's a crossover thing. I think it has to have its own feel.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a perfect world, what I like is to have its pretty much its own roster with a few crossovers. It's kind of like we look at Marvel. You have your different characters in their movies, and Guardians of the Galaxy has a big squad, yet they popped up in the last Avengers movie. So that's kind of how I see it. Is like, you want that connectivity, you want some crossover, but you don't want it to be something when I was at WWE, we had Raw versus SmackDown and then ECW. You When things got weird and all of a sudden USA wanted 3 hours, it's like, okay, we're just going to bring everyone and throw them on Raw, and you just broke down that barricade. And once the genie's out of the bottle, the uniqueness of having these two distinct shows really starts to be a problem. So having gone through that before, and also it's just, I think in Mexico, the more it's just really authentically lucha, the better the product will be received by the fans watching it in Mexico. A lot of the American talent, even if they're incredibly talented and gifted, going down there and trying to connect with that audience is going to be difficult. They want their best fighting their best. If I try to shoehorn in some guys that have a great act up here, it's not necessarily transferable south of the border.
Yeah. Another major piece of news that broke recently was you will be introducing the Women's Featherweight Championship. What can you tell us about the Women's Featherweight Tournament, and when can we look forward to that becoming starting to air?
So the first featherweight bout will be this Wednesday on Alpha, which will air 24 hours before Fightland for free on YouTube worldwide, and then on Saturdays on BN. And so we'll have Willow Nightingale versus Ashley Vox, and I think it's going to be a big fight. The thing that I think is important about having representation is I think it's kind of archaic to say, okay, we're just going to have a women's division. I want it to be on the same level as the men's division, which means multiple weight classes, just like we do with the middleweight title, the openweight championship, and of course the heavyweight championship. So we're starting with the featherweight championship, which I think people don't realize in wrestling, because it's been a weight class for 100 years in boxing, and it's a thing in the UFC. It's like, these are actual weight classes. It's not a gimmick name. It's a weight class. So there's a scenario where we do the featherweight division, and then maybe we establish an atomweight division. Maybe we establish a middleweight division for the women. But to just say we have one, just a women's division, feels like, something out of the 50s.
Right. Well, there's. I got one more question here. Would you like to work with other companies outside of MLWs, especially since you've so many former MLW stars like MJF, Brian Pillman Jr., Dan Lambert are now part of the AEW roster. Would you be open to a more of a working relationship with someone like an AEW?
Well, it is funny. I was looking around. I said to someone in our locker room, yeah, where else are you going to have? You turn right and walk 5 feet, you have the booker from All Japan Pro Wrestling and Tajiri. You turn left and go around the corner, there's the booker for IWA Puerto Rico and Savio Vega. And over there, sipping a Slurpee, is Conan, the AAA booker. And so to have access right there to 3 different territories and give our talent, open the door and give our talent opportunities to work over there and bring talent from their companies over to the U.S., that's kind of my goal. And we've had great relationships with different companies, and I think you look at each one and you try to figure out if there's a good fit, if there's a casual thing you can do, and then trying to navigate from a domestic point of view, which is harder. How does it work? Because you're basically inviting tortious interference. You're saying, come on over, and then it becomes kind of a recruitment process. So it's like you basically set that in motion yourself. So it's a really delicate thing on the stateside level. How do you do it? How much trust you have? And then looking at the track record for other companies, how's it worked out for them when they open that door? Does it lead to something where the tide rises all ships, or is it something where certain ships rise and the people on those ships jump to the other ship, and then they say, oh wait, adios? And they also, you want to make sure your talent is featured in a way that's consistent with what you're looking for out of it, and also for what the fans are looking for out of it. If all of a sudden they're so invested in your guys and their main event talent in your company, and all of a sudden they're now doing strange stuff and not even really featured in another company, that's kind of the service of the fans that have taken that journey. You want to make sure that those fans are getting, their guys being represented the way they want them to be represented. I'm the guardian and steward of that for them, and so I have to be careful with that. And that's a process, and it's a trust process, and they have goals on the other side, and it's very complicated to make that mesh. And at the end, you both say that worked out great for us. You want that, that's the goal. And just takes time in building a relationship. It's a bit of a courtship. It's a bit of a kind of a feeling out process. I'm always open to it. It's just a matter of how does it work in actuality.
Well, Court, it's a busy week. Thursday night, MLW Fightland on Vice TV. Tell people how they can follow MLW and how they can catch Alpha.
Follow MLW. MLW is on Twitter at MLW, on Facebook at Major League Wrestling when Facebook is up and running, along with Instagram. But follow us every Wednesday. We have Fusion Alpha, 7 p.m. on YouTube, 10 p.m. on Saturdays on BN Sports, and then the biggest show in history this Thursday, 10 p.m. after Dark Side on Vice TV. We're taking a fight town with 2 title matches: Tajiri versus Eres versus Aramis versus the world middleweight champion Myron Reed kicks things off. Then we got embedded. I don't know what you guys are going to talk about. Hopefully you don't bury me in my ideas in MLW. Then you got the main event, title for title, Jacob Fatu, undefeated since coming to MLW, the undisputed world heavyweight champion since July 2019, taking on Alex Hammerstone, who is the only national openweight champion, having won the inaugural title in June of 2019. It doesn't get any bigger than that, and we're giving it to you all for free this Thursday. It's Power, it's versus Chaos, Fatu Hammerstone, for free on Vice TV. Come check out MLW, experience the difference. I dare you.
It's huge, a huge night. Court, thanks as always. We always love having you on, and we hope to have you back soon.
Always.
All right, well, take care. And everyone, check out MLW Fightland on Vice TV Thursday night.